I am so happy to be joined by a legendary friend. He will poo-poo the idea of legend. He will poo-poo with great humility the job that he does on the longest-running funny show, just in sports, but for all of television. One could make an argument that you have the space. No, I'm gonna do this introduction correctly because I want people to understand. All those guys say you're the most important piece, and you say that's ridiculous. Obviously, that's asinine. They're the stars. You're just there to serve them, but you know how to be a host. And being a host requires a decency, a kindness, and an ego that you don't generally find in the television business because you have to be someone who brings the ball up and just passes again and again and again and does it quietly. And you built a monster. I don't know if it's by accident. I don't know how much inventory. I imagine you're very meticulous. There's just simply no way you can do the job as well as you do without caring deeply about the craft of broadcasting. But I don't think people understand how hard it is to be you, and I need you to explain it to them without being humble, because it's not as easy as you make it look to do 30 years of the greatest sports television show that there has ever been.
What?
Welcome, by the way.
Thank you,
I just don't want you to be humble guy here. Like, what you do is hard, and you can talk about it gratefully before God without poo-pooing how hard it is to do what you do, because I know they make it look easy. It is not as easy as you make it look.
There's a lot of work, and I love the work. And I love the prep. And look, I appreciate everything you said about the show and about my role. And there's not a day that goes by that I am not as thankful as I could possibly be about sitting in that chair for that long. Since I was hired in 1989 by Turner Broadcasting, and had to sit out a 6-month no-compete clause because I had been working in local TV in Atlanta. So I just spun my wheels for 6 months, did a few stories, and then it was the next season, 90-91 season, they said, hey, Craig Sager is going to go on the road. He's going to be a sideline reporter, because Craig was in the chair. And so you're our NBA guy. And it was, I had no idea that I'd be sitting here in 2023 talking about this run in that role. That was never in the cards. And what's kept me there is being prepared. And that's the whole key to the longevity.
Often without needing your colleagues to be as prepared, because they're there for expertise. And I know how much Charles hates those March Madness weekends where they make him memorize all the names, because you're doing the preparation in a lot of ways, as is an unbelievable production team, so that Kenny and Charles and Shaq can be maximum themselves. The reason that I admire it, one of the many reasons I admire it so much, is because of how rare it is to be able to keep those spinning plates together and working together when this is the vanity business, Ernie. Like, Shaq's used to being a star. Charles is used to being the star of that show. Kenny is used to being a facilitator who understands your role better than most.
Mm-hmm. But and the thing, you know why it's work? Because nobody tries to make themselves the show. Because they've never tried to make the show about themselves. And I'm in the fortunate position of getting us from point A to point B to point C with 3 guys who have been in every conceivable situation in a basketball game. And so nobody at home cares if what I think about what might be being said in a huddle with 1.7 seconds to go. They want to hear from the guys who have been there. And so it's up to me to try to bring out the best in these 3 guys. And knowing your role is vital. You know, if you try to stray outside your lane and be something you aren't, then it doesn't work. And the fact that we don't rehearse, and the fact that we just let her rip, there you go.
They have such reverence for your decency, though. Those, I mean, I've heard Charles speak about you. He doesn't speak
I know.
about many the way that he speaks about you. Those guys would do almost anything for you and have.
I would do the same for them. We all would.
Well, that's pretty unusual in television, isn't it?
Yeah, you know TV, yes, but I think that's what comes with years of being together. And when you think about, Kenny and I have been together the longest because I used to do the show by myself, and then for a while, just here's Cheryl Miller for a while, here's Reggie Theus for a while, here's Dick Versace for a while, and then Kenny comes along and we have a pretty good thing going, and then Chuck. But the three of us for more than 20 years have been doing this together, which is unheard of in TV, where the next TV executive always has a better idea. Oh, no, these three guys will work. No, this two, and to take him out and add him. And then Shaq for the last dozen years. So when you have that kind of time together and you have that kind of a bond, then you just, I'm not sounding sappy here, we love each other. We really, truly. And, I grew up with two older sisters, and this is as close as I'll ever come to having brothers. And that's what they are to me.
Do you tell them?
Oh, all the time.
Do they tell you?
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? There was a moment, too, when Kobe passed. We did a show out in L.A. Right there in the middle of the floor. The game had been canceled, but we were just going to spend that time talking about Kobe. And I remember Shaq on that night saying on the air that I don't say this enough to you guys, but I love you, and we do. And I think one thing that whole moment in time taught all of us was that you don't know. You don't know how long you have. And it behooves us to make sure that everything's cool between us. Everything's cool, not just between the four of us on the show, but between everybody in your life. That if the unthinkable happens, do you want to leave that with, man, I wish I had said this. Man, I wish that silly feud, I could have stepped up and defused it. I wish I would have said this. And I think it was a pretty brutal reminder of that.
How important is love to any sensitive thing that happens because people are talking for 6 hours on television a night and sparks are going to be caused and disagreements happen between siblings, friends, and loved ones? There's not a bigger ingredient to why it is that it's successful than that, right?
Mm-hmm. Without question, yeah. And that cuts right through the essence of what we do. And let's not get carried away with points in the paint and second chance points and fast break points and who's making this decision and why is this important. Keep it where it is. Sports is a great distraction from the real stuff because there's enough real stuff going on that'll drive you crazy. And so I think it's really important that while this is my job, and being in that chair has been at the center of my professional life, let's not forget what really matters. And because we're so familiar with each other, and because there are times where tempers, I wouldn't even call it tempers, it's just where opinions differ and defenses are raised, we're talking sports.